Thank you so much, Melissa. Well, we are expecting to hear some inflation numbers later this morning to see how much more expensive things got in the month of March. But for some families, more importantly, they're interested in the interest rate announcement that's coming out tomorrow. So Frank Napolitano of Mortgage Brokers Ottawa joins us right now to let us know his thoughts on all of this. Obviously, Frank, as you know, and we've been discussing for months now, economic uncertainty, affordability, the housing crisis, whether or not we can afford to buy homes, all top of mind for many Canadians. Give us your thoughts, because we've seen consecutive cuts from the Bank of Canada.
Yeah,
do you think we'll see an eighth tomorrow?
Inflation numbers today will be a big leading indicator into what Bank of Canada does tomorrow.
Yeah.
The thinking seems to be that if inflation numbers stay where they were last month or maybe come down a little bit, chances are very high the Bank of Canada will likely drop by a quarter point.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if they just leave it the way it is for now. One pause, next one is June 4th, and then they'll see how not only everything else you just talked about, but obviously the tariffs are the big talk of town, and they haven't quite impacted our economy yet. Although we're starting to see automakers lay off employees.
That's right.
I think we're seeing it on the aluminum and steel side. And once those start to compound, then I think Bank of Canada will have to make a more serious decision. But I think it's 50-50. Most economists are saying it's 50-50 what the Bank of Canada does. I think it's just waiting for the numbers today on the inflation report to really decide whether they can go ahead and make a 0.25% cut, which I think many Canadians hope happens.
Definitely. We could certainly use it in many regards. We're also hearing talks of a recession, and we've lived through a recession before. 2008 was a big year. It seemed to hurt people south of the border more so than Canadians, but we certainly felt the pinch as well.
Sure,
what are your thoughts in that regard if we are to enter that territory once again?
Yeah, get away from the tariff talks that started in January, and we were already forecasting for 2025 to be a little bit of a bumpy road in Canada with job losses potentially and maybe a minor recession. Put tariffs on top of that, and certainly the talk becomes louder and louder that a recession is likely to happen at some point, maybe the middle of this year to the end of this year. I can tell you that most customers that are calling us that have their mortgage coming up for renewal are a little worried because they're coming off of 2.5% mortgages, and now mortgage rates are closer to 4%. So they're a little worried about that. And then on top of that, once we get deeper into the conversations, the good news for a lot of Canadians, though, that purchased a house 5 years ago, they've built up $250,000 in equity because of the craziness of house prices during the pandemic. But the bad news is that their interest rate's going from 2 or 2.5% up to 4%, and they're a little worried that they can make ends meet. And a lot of these Canadians have also accrued some debt in the meantime trying to make ends meet. So, you know, there are at least the good news, and I always say to Canadians, the good news is that your house has gone up in value, which means you've built up some equity, which, again, with the interest rates going up, you can re-amortize your mortgage for a little longer and be able to keep your payments fairly similar, maybe include some of that debt into the mortgage, and be able to, again, live life for now and hope that interest rates continue to come down over the next year or two. And then when you renew again, depending on if you take a 5-year fixed, you're locked in for 4%. But again, a lot of people are looking for that set payment. Let me know what my payment's going to be for the next 5 years. And if I can amortize it over 25 or 30 years instead of 20 years and get my payments similar to what it is right now, I think I can make ends meet.
I know it's case by case, but any general tips you want to offer people if they're, because we know many homes are bought in the spring and the summer. People like to shop for homes around that time. So they are up for mortgage renewals and they're just like, what do I do?
Yeah, it's a good question. It all depends on their ability to deal with volatility. So if you take an adjustable variable rate, I think it might be the best route to go, but it comes with potential volatility, and that prime rate may come down. Look, we're looking at Wednesday. It may or may not come down tomorrow. And then June 4th, it may or may not come down. And if you're expecting it to come down every time, then you're disappointed that it doesn't come down. And you say, maybe I should have taken a fixed mortgage instead of a variable rate mortgage. But the one thing that a lot of Canadians have to understand is that if you take an adjustable variable rate mortgage, it doesn't mean you're locked into it for the 5 years. You can convert it at any time to a fixed mortgage, and it doesn't cost you anything to convert it. So, you know, if you think and if you're okay with the fact that there might be some volatility, the likelihood of prime rate going up seems to be very slim right now. If anything, it's going to come down. The question is it going to come down a 1/4 point, a 1/2 point, 3/4 point over the next 6 months? And as long as you're willing to be patient and wait for it to come down, if we do hit a recession, we know interest rates are going to come down. There's no question about that.
All right, Frank, I want to thank you for your expertise once again this morning. That's Frank Napolitano of Mortgage Brokers Ottawa.
Thank you. Thank you.